and start a meeting. Let me pause it. Okay, so welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to have you this afternoon again to be part of our conversation on ethical leadership and specifically giving voice to values. This is a conversation that we started a week ago, and we hope that it will not end with this series, because our aim is to actually actualize this conversation within our personal and professional settings. Before I proceed, I would like to confirm that I can be audibly heard. Can I be heard?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you so much. So welcome once again. And my name is Lydia. I'm also just trying to confirm if my video is on, because I can't see anything my side.
Yeah, your video is on.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Chinwe. So my name is Lydia Nyakahuma, and I provide oversight to the Human Resources function at Cavendish University in the position of Human Resource Director. I am making this introduction in the interest of our external participants. On this call, we have external presenters. I'm going to request Prof. Mugisha kindly mute, and anyone else who has not muted, kindly mute. And so this afternoon, we continue our conversation around ethical leadership. Ethical leadership encompasses all spheres of life, your personal engagements, your professional settings. And I recall from our conversation last week, where we had the privilege of the executive director sharing, he mentioned that ethical leadership is about self, it's about the other person, and it's for a common good. So we are continuing with this conversation this afternoon, and I would like to mention that we have eminent speakers on this subject, and we are honored this afternoon to have speakers from Ashesi University. We'll have a speaker from Ashesi University, and we'll have the Vice Chancellor of Strathmore University, Dr. Ogutu, speaking to us. And of course, we'll have our very own Professor Mugisha wrapping this up as a sponsor of this conversation, because we'd like to actualize it within our setting. So before I delve into the discussion further, I would just like to appreciate everyone who was able to join this webinar on time. And I'll quote a quote, okay, it's a quote, a statement that our Chief Academic Officer made, I think about 4 weeks ago when we had a session. He said, successful individuals prioritize punctuality, recognizing the value of time, and conversely, those facing challenges often resort to making excuses for tardiness. This principle holds universally, transcending geographical boundaries and cultural differences, whether in Uganda, in Kenya, in Zambia, in Italy, or Ghana, wherever you are. So I would just like to affirm and appreciate everyone that was able to join in on time. So moving on to our mainstream conversation, I would like to introduce our first speaker this afternoon. Our first speaker this afternoon is Dr. Dinah Baidoo from Ashesi University. She is a senior assistant librarian. She has served for over 10 years at Ashesi University and provided academic support for students and faculty. Her passion for ethical values grew as she interacted with the faculty, students, staff, academically in the university. And this afternoon, she will speak about cultivating an ethical culture, role modeling institutional practices. Dr. Dinah, are you there?
Yes, please.
Okay, I am going to request that you turn on your video, and I would also like to, as you do that, to recognize the presence of our Vice Chancellor on this webinar and the Executive Director, and of course, all the other staff from Cavendish University, Uganda. As you turn on your video, Dr. Dinah.
Yes, please. My video is on. Thank you.
Okay, so welcome, Dr. Dinah. We are so honored to have you, and we're looking forward to hearing from you on this topic on ethical leadership, cultivating an ethical culture, role modeling, and institutional practices. Welcome, Dr. Dinah.
Thank you so much. Dr. Lydia N. Inkayu Nyaka, right? I am happy to be called upon for this session, which concerns teaching ethics and modeling values, team educators to model ethical behavior. This issue of ethics has become a challenge in Africa, and now we are taking it upon ourselves as Africans in the Education Collaborative to create that kind of awareness, because lack of knowledge, the people will perish. So if we create this awareness, it will help us to help our people that we work with and everybody within our country and the whole of Africa to be on our focus on what ethics is and what unethical issues are. So with my slides, the next slide, please. I am talking about cultivating an ethical culture, role modeling, and institutional practice. And on this topic, I want to clarify issues within the context or the content of the topic that we are going to discuss this afternoon. We want to cultivate ethical culture and then be a role model for institutional practice. If we look at the word cultivating, it has synonymous terms like nurturing, developing something, preparing, or acquiring. We can have as many as we can think of. When we talk about ethics, ethics has to do with our values, rules of conduct, virtues, behavior standard, principles, the right or wrong, philosophy, what we stand for, firmly rooted with values. Then we look at culture. Culture comprises our beliefs, the values or our way of life, our traditions in society, in our community and institutions or organization. And then role modeling, meaning that we have to live exemplary lives for others or up and coming young people that we live with in our workplace, our society, our community, wherever, to also emulate. So we want to have an admiration or exceptional character, which will be outstanding. And then when you look at the word institution, institution is made up of groups We have educational institutions. We have missions and churches. We have all different kinds of institutions, even in our family. Families are also institutions, which has visions and mission to live with. We also look at the practice of institution, which is the ways by which we do things, looking at our culture and our belief, the ways that we do things in our institutions. The next slide, please. So, we are looking at cultivating ethical culture. What does it mean to cultivate an ethical culture? To cultivate an ethical culture within an institution, a society, a group, we should not just leave everybody just doing anything that they want, but there should be rules and regulations to govern every institution based on the mission and vision. So you need to set up ethical values as part of the mission and vision of the institution. These ethical values are structures and goals to achieve. The set ethical values provide institutional guidelines. They are systems and policies that we set for the way we want to go. Hello? Is there any problem?
We can proceed. Can proceed.
Come again?
It's okay, you can proceed. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay. For the way we want to go, but then every rule or system of ethical living or culture or the way we want things to go should be set and backed by certain sanctions for wrongdoing. If not so, we will just have whatever principles we have on paper, but then it will not be yielded to. Nobody will comply to it. So we have the sanctions, workable sanctions, sanctions that will be applied to deter people from wrongdoing. Then we provide avenues for orientation and training, creating awareness like we are doing presently. Because if the people become aware, they know it and they do the wrong thing, you can then stand out to punish them or apply the said sanctions set up. We also provide reminders as a wake-up call, because people might have the guidelines, they might read in a booklet, in a handbook, HR handbook, or whatever handbook, but they might be tempered or forgotten about themselves. So there should be regular reminders like webinars, sending emails, cautioning people about things that we will be doing that we know that this is not going well. Then among the society, as leaders, and not just leaders, but everybody within the society, we try to set ethical examples and tell our experiences against unethical behavior, times when issues have gone on that we feel that we don't want this thing to go this way. And what have we done about it? We tell people those stories. You build a confident and value-driven team with a system policy that you have and guidelines in place with a support orientation training and reminders. So in all of this, there will be an alert that will lead avoidance of wrongdoing. There will be an avoidance of unethical behavior, avoidance of compromising wrongdoing. And you stand firm to speak against any unethical action that may come your way. And that will let you ensure, or everybody will ensure, that everybody within the community behave ethically. Next slide, please. So, what do we talk about ethics as a culture of an institution? Having and behaving ethically in an institution becomes our culture, because we have already made the people know that this is the way we want to go. This is the way we want to do this in this institution. As a team, this is what we want to have. Our values are for this and against this. We have set our systems and our policies and our guidelines to follow. Therefore, there is care and caution among the people. There is alertness among the people. The people speak the language of ethics, and everybody will be on the same page. We give ourselves reminders as colleagues if we see somebody going the wrong way within the team. We offer support for people to do the right thing by correcting them or alerting them or bringing them back to book. This, therefore, will bring us joy in doing the right thing. And then we fight against the wrongdoing. You will never be bothered who it is. Your head of department, your leader, whoever, your colleague in the office, your mother in the house, your father, whoever is involved, your husband, you will not have the fear of correcting or fighting against the wrongdoing. And then there is a kind of you not accepting the behavior of an ethical. Everybody will frown on such unethical behavior. People will speak against the wrong without fear or favor. Everyone will be treated equally within the community as we speak the one language of ethics, and we understand it and we work towards it. Irrespective of our background, our status, our gender, our race, or whoever, we know that this is what the community or the institution stands for, and this is where we are going. Therefore, we are all for it. And that brings satisfaction and joy among the people, because we all understand if I do something wrong and my colleague alerts me or corrects me, it brings me back to book. I accept it, I understand, and then I go the right way. The next time, I will be careful of what I do. Role modeling. If we talk about role modeling, we mean that everyone has a role to play within a society, irrespective of you being a leader or not. So we are always talking about ethical leadership, ethical leadership. What about the followers? What are the followers also doing? And the followers may also become leaders. So the leadership issue doesn't only depend on the ethical issue doesn't only depend on the leaders, but also the subordinates and the followers. The followers must speak the language of the leader. They must understand the language of the leader. Because, of course, if the leader wants to toe a particular way and the subordinates or the followers are also going the other way, things will mess up and things will not go well. That is why this is a call for everybody within the community. And we want to inculcate ethical values to help others to do the right thing that we do. So that is about we doing the right thing and then making sure others do. So it is a role modeling for us. We are paving the way for our followers, and our followers also paving the way for everybody to do the right thing. Team support for ethical behavior is actually needed in this situation, because the leader cannot do it all. The leader has the vision, has the principles, has the mission, that this is what I want to come out with. This is what I want to do. If the followers understand and they accept and they want to move with the leader in his direction, things will go well for us. Then the leader also occasionally telling their stories about the ethical issues and unethical issues. So this afternoon, I am here talking to you about ethics, and I want to give you some information about what Ashesi does. So what is the Ashesi way that I am here to tell you about, so that we as a community or as a collaborative, we can also learn from each other. We learn from you, you also learn from us. In Ashesi here, we have learning goals that guides teaching, learning, and administrative work. So these learning goals is backed by the ethics and then civic engagement to instill a culture of ethics within the people. Ethics and civic education also aim to raise a generation of values-driven ethical leaders. The goals also instill in the community the courage, the ethical action to do the right thing even when no one is watching. So you don't expect that you see your leader, you see your boss, your head of department, your HR, then you fake yourself by doing something right. No, you always do even when no one is around you. And that is very credible to our society over here. How is this achieved? How do we achieve our honor code system? We have honor code system that we have put in place for every student of Ashesi. And this system ensures that students do not cheat during examination, and they are responsible to themselves and others who may teach, right? So during the examination, students are not supervised. They take responsibility of their own supervision and supervision of their colleagues. We are each other's keepers. And then we say that you must do the wrong thing even when no one is watching you. You must not cheat in the exam even when there is no invigilator. Ensures that students do the right thing and tolerate others who do the same. And this academic honor code is also guided by a plagiarism check, which is Turnitin, and a disciplinary action by the Ashesi Judicial Council. We also have a social honor code that governs the community, that ensures that everybody behaves ethically by respecting each other, avoid offensive languages or sarcastic statements. We don't condone sexual harassment or bullying. Anything that has to do with a bad language that harasses your colleague at work, whether a subordinate or a senior, we speak against it. And there is this lost but found item box in the library that always when I speak about the honor code system, I talk about it, because people are responsible for each other's lost item. When you can't find your item, you come to the library and you see it's deposited there for you. So we take ownership as the librarians of any lost items that are brought to us. We record the person who turned in the item, and then when the owner comes to claim, we make the owner sign for it. And because of this kind of culture, people are responsible and happy to turn in anything that they found on campus that does not belong to them. And we have received valuable items coming to us, like laptops, iPads, mobile phones, monies, and a lot, which the owners have claimed, and we are still doing. And so you walk around and feel safe because you know that in case you might forget to leave anything somewhere else, you will still find it. How is this achieved in this slide again? So there is this giving voice to values training, which Ashesi is teaching as part of a leadership course for students. It started as giving voice to value Ashesi, and now it has built up into GVV Africa, teaching students and training everybody, staff and faculty within the community online. And we have a training model for both faculty and administrators. We have sexual misconduct training that we are doing for every student on campus. And we have set up first respondents team for any misconduct or any issue of sexual harassment to be reported. We have a system to declare any relationship between any faculty and administrator or anybody, your head and subordinates, because we know that this kind of relationship within communities usually bring a kind of unethical issues. So when you declare, then it is made official for everybody to know, everybody to become aware that Mr. A and Ms. B are in this kind of relationship, and we make it documented. The reporting system also make people avoid any academic integrity for any sexual harassment or any misconduct. There are disciplinary actions which the Judicial Council are in charge for any wrongdoing. So we're talking about role modeling. What is the role modeling for? We have all stakeholders in Ashesi expected to be role models, not just faculty, not just leaders, not just students, but students play their part, their roles to be ethical in terms of dealing with their colleagues, in terms of academics. We don't offer bribes to get grades. We check students' thesis, assignments, reflective journals, whatever they write through the 1018, make sure that everything is perfect. Faculty and administrators also play their parts. And in this, we all are aware of what the ethical issue is about. And we continue to create awareness to all incoming and even existing ones. We believe in frowning on these ethical issues, any unethical issues. So therefore, we provide situations where people are able to analyze issues that are unethical and are able to take actions against it. We have role models for faculty and administrators who support in raising these generations of value-driven ethical leaders as one of the goals of Ashesi. And this resonates with the community. So it helps the people to practice what they teach. They live exemplary lives and are worth emulating. So therefore, we share ethical experiences as reminders for ethical behaviors within the community. And most often, we have our president, Dr. Patrick Ewa, shared with us his experiences when he started this university, when he wanted students to be enrolled, and the news agency that will publish Ashesi to the public wanted bribe before they do that, but they found a nice way around it, just not to give bribe. But we still had students to take off, to start the university. And even at the time, when the new campus will start, the project will start, and we needed approval, people also requested for bribe, which was refused. And therefore, you know that we are dealing with somebody that will not condone any unethical behavior. So you will also be very careful when you are working with Ashesi, within Ashesi community. And wherever you may go, these ethical standards and principles reminds you of how you should behave. Thank you for this session and the opportunity to speak to you. I am Dinah Baidoo, Senior Assistant Librarian at Ashesi University, and my email address is here. At this point, if there are any questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dinah, for speaking to us. Indeed, you have shared very challenging. It's a challenge to us, because speaking to us, we see that the system is already established. But of course, we are here to learn and to benchmark as well. So I believe as we listen in, colleagues, you are taking notes, because we will have roundtable conversations on how we can actually actualize an ethical culture in our own community as CUU. I would encourage you to post any questions, any perspectives you would have about the conversation on ethics, on ethical leadership, giving voice to values in the chat. So as we go along, we will have a pause we will be able to pause and respond to those questions. I see that we do not have any questions. Would someone want to raise their hand at this point in time? We still have a bit of minutes within Dr. Dinah's allocated time. So if anyone would like clarity on any of the issues she has mentioned, I may give you an opportunity. I would like to give you an opportunity. Okay, I do not see. Yes, Prof Mugisha, your hand is up, if you may.
Thank you very much, Dinah, for a very good presentation. I just wanted to pick up on students, on invigilation of examinations, where the students have reached the level. You have reached the level where students invigilate themselves and are able to point out those that are bringing in, for instance, foreign material without a teacher having to invigilate. I want to know how we are able to tell that the students are faithful to that culture, given that if they are writing with pen, it becomes difficult to use even Turnitin to check plagiarism. Turnitin is used when you have typed, you have sent in fact work. How does it work? But congratulations on a number of developments that we always learn from Ashesi. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug and Professor. On the issue of invigilation in examination, the students are made to swear in the honor code system. So they sign for an acceptable behavior for any academic misconduct and also the social misconduct. So with the invigilation, they are only given the examination papers and the answer booklets, and they are left in the classroom to do their exams. But then they become invigilators of themselves. So in case any student find another student copying from another paper from anywhere or asking questions or whatever, he or she has to report. And because of the culture that we have built, if you see such a thing and you don't report it, it will actually harm you. And when you report, you will be free. But the person cheating, when is called before the Judicial Council, will know the wrong that he or she has done. So we have different gravities of offenses and the sanctions that are applied in such situations. So in the Turnitin, when they turn in their write-up onto the software, it helps them to rewrite if they have a higher percentage of the writing that shows that they have copied or they have not actually cited a source that they got any information from, reference it appropriately, or if they quoted vividly, having the inverted commas quotes show within the citation in the text. In such situations, because this system has been provided, if a student refuses to do that and submit an assignment or work for marking, and it comes up, because the lecturers also check on all of these things, when it comes up, then the gravity of the dishonesty is looked at, and then the sanction that is supposed to go with it is applied. I hope I have answered your question.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Dinah. There was also a question from Bernard. I think that you have partly mentioned what kind of sanctions are in place for students who breach the honor code.
Okay, so the sanctions are a lot. And like I said, there is a team of the Judicial Council that will sit and adjudicate the case and find out about the extent of the offense. And then we have actually students' handbook that also gives them the various sanctions and the offenses that are applied. So they having given those kind of handbooks to read, also become aware of these offenses. And when it happened, the information in the honor code is going to be applied to whatever sanction supposed to be given.
Okay, so what I understand is there's a foundation to this to be able to support establishment of the culture, so that sanctions are very clear and also the points of reference are very clear. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing the Ashesi story, how the far that you have come. I know it's a great learning, it's challenging, but one step at a time, I believe we should be able to get moving. Dr. Russell asks, how can organizations effectively promote and reinforce ethical behavior among their employees and stakeholders? I'm sure this you have mentioned, but if you could just articulate 1, 2, 3 classroom styles so that we do have the takeaways.
Okay, please come again on that note, the last
How
bit
can
of
organizations, I know you touched on it in the presentation, how can organizations effectively promote and reinforce ethical behavior among their employees and stakeholders, fostering to complete the question, I think fostering an ethical culture.
Yeah, I got it.
One of
All
the
right.
things you mentioned is role modeling.
Yeah, so as an organization, every organization should have a mission and a vision. First of all, you set up an organization or an institution, not just to just do anything haphazardly or do anything anyhow, but you know where you are coming from, you know where you want to go, or you know where you have reached and where you want to go and what you want to achieve. Therefore, your vision and your mission is directing you, but back this mission and vision with an ethical standard, which we know that is an issue in Africa. You put people in certain offices, certain places, and you cannot actually go around seeing all the activities, whatever they do. For instance, you want somebody to acquire something for the institution, and the person wants to benefit. Though if the person is being paid, the person will ask for a percentage to be included in the pricing for him or her to benefit, which is wrong. So if you have all of this, your mission and vision backed by this ethics, and then you make the people aware, the awareness creation in all means, orientation, training, talks around, it becomes a language within the community. Everybody within the community are talking about ethics. And I remember over here, people are even making it as a fun, that with colleagues, we do something and somebody will tell you, this is not ethical, like in a joke, but then the person is just reminding you. So it has become part of us and we are playing with it, giving ourselves reminders. So that alone keeps us on our toes. If somebody should go the wrong way, the person will be alerted to actually come back. So if you have all these rules and regulations that should also back it with the sanction to apply, the sanction will deter people from wrongdoing. Therefore, you are able to achieve this mission and mission that is backed with ethical culture. And we live in a harmony with each other, because somebody might go wrong and then you get somebody, bringing you back to your toes. And there is that kind of understanding. This is what we do over here. This is the way we go. So when you come, you are educated, you know it, and then you apply it.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Dinah, for giving us guidance on that. I know from our initial conversation on ethical leadership and giving voice to values, I think Dr. Nyaole shared with us on how you actually voice it out, right? Without
yes.
If there's an issue, you should be able to voice it out. And of course,
yes.
There should always be team cohesion about acceptable conduct, acceptable behavior, so that the entire team is actually in agreement with what is acceptable within your team setting. It actually gets infectious. And then one by one, the one-by-one principle makes a bundle, exactly. Then eventually you'll have a move into the direction that you'd want to go.
Exactly.
I would still want to give an opportunity. This is an interesting conversation. I know one of the people that is really passionate about ethics is Dr. Russell. Is there anything that you'd want to share from your space? Share with us a challenge from your space that probably we can relate with. Dr. Russell, are you in position to do that? Okay, I would still open up. Anyone would like to share their experience in the classroom, when they're in the classroom or in the different interactions. It could be students, it could be fellow staff. those recurring scenarios that actually in our community that we feel are ethically challenging, or a scenario that you have experienced that you'd want to share with us. This is a learning session for us. It is engaging, and I would encourage you to speak up. Giving voice to values, that's what it is. Okay, please drop in your questions as we move along. Bernard, kindly confirm if our next presenter is ready, whether Dr. Vincent Ogutu is ready. Thank you so much, Dr. Dinah. That was deep for us, and we'll have a moment to still review the best practice, the existing structure at Ashesi, and copy but paste appropriately. Thank you so much, Dr. Dinah.
Thank you to Dr. Lydia. Thank you so much for having me.
Bernard, kindly confirm that Dr. Vincent Ogutu is on the call.
He's finishing a meeting, then he'll join shortly. Maybe Prof could go, then he comes in later.
Okay. So we will manage that. Ethical leadership is one of the key pillars of our vision and mission, and Dr. Dinah mentioned that we should have direction. And we already have direction in our mission. So I know the mission is at the heart. Prof has this, even at midnight, he would wake up and make bullet points around our mission. So at this point, I am going to request Prof that you come and speak to us as we wait for Dr. Vincent Ogutu. All these topics are interrelated. And Prof Mugisha will be speaking to us about fostering ethical leadership, empowering educators for value-based voices. And for the interest of colleagues joining us outside of CUU, Prof Mugisha is the Vice Chancellor of Cavendish University. He holds a PhD in Health Planning and Management from Keele University, a Master of Science in Health Services Management from Uganda Matters University, and a Bachelor's of Arts in Social Sciences from Makerere University. Professor Mugisha is an internationally recognized scholar in health planning and management. He previously served as the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic Affairs of Cavendish University, Uganda, and before as the Dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences at Uganda Matters University. Professor Mugisha is a member of the National Council for Higher Education. He is a recipient of a Fellowship Award of the Africa Institute of Public Health Professionals, a member of the Ugandan National Immunization Technical Advisory Group, UNITAG, and the current Vice Chairman of the Uganda Vice Chancellors Forum. He's an author of several scholarly articles in various peer-reviewed journals, and Professor Mugisha, I mentioned earlier, holds a PhD in Health Planning and Management from Keele University, and not forgetting that he's an entrepreneur. So he's very passionate about entrepreneurship. And in one of his statements, he says, at any one point in time, please have something to sell, whatever it is. It could be an idea, it could be a service, it could be a product. Always have something to sell. That is ethically acceptable. So at this moment, I would like to invite Professor John Francis Mugisha to speak to us on the topic of fostering ethical leadership, empowering educators for value-based voices. Welcome, Prof. Mugisha.
Thank you very much, Lydia, for your kind introduction. I would like to thank Dinah for a very wonderful presentation, which was thought-provoking. And thanks to all those who have made the time, made the time to participate in this important presentation or webinar. So I was requested to talk about fostering ethical leadership, empowering educators for values-based voices. And I was asked to do this in 15 minutes. So I'm just looking at the time. I could even take less. So that if Dr. Ogutu comes in, then it's not over-delayed. We've been talking about ethical leadership, and I think the reason we say give values a voice is because there are issues to do with ethics. There is ethical conduct, but there is also ethical leadership. Ethical leadership is basically by the leaders. It's a type of leadership where priorities and decisions are taken by leaders guided by a very strong sense of integrity, of fairness, of commitment to values and principles. Where leaders are taking decisions guided by a strong sense of integrity, respect, fairness, and other values of an ethical nature, then we talk of ethical leadership. Where these are absent in daily decision-making by leaders, then there is lack of ethical leadership. Take an example, if a CEO of a business corporation has to take a decision to choose between an economic or a commercial venture that brings in a lot of profits, but is likely to hurt the environment, or protecting the environment for going the profits. And the leader chooses to forego that profitable venture, but protect the environment. We talk of ethical leadership. I also have had a chance to speak to someone in Operation Wealth Creation who is responsible for mineral wealth and mining. And I said, in my area, I have seen people who came and they said they hold licenses to do mining, but they have not done it for quite a long time. Why are they not mining? And he told me that the president of the country said, you cannot mine and sell the raw materials, the minerals in their raw form. If you bring in an investor who can do further processing and add value to the minerals before they are exported, I will allow mining. If you don't have such an investor, keep the license. You will only start mining when there is an investor to add value. And now it's over 20 years. People holding licenses and not mining. And I think what the president of Uganda has in mind is not to cheat the country, but also the future generation. So we know the various principles of ethical leadership, and I have talked about some of them. Integrity. It can be quite difficult to explain. It's a big thing. Respect, accountability, fairness, honesty, consistency, long-term focus, social responsibility, leading by example. These are principles that you could easily forget if you are not thinking about ethics all the time. That, are you fair? Are you handling something with respect? Is there integrity in what you are doing? Are you consistent? You've had one of the judges complaining that the appellate court is not consistent, and so it is confusing the lower courts with different or conflicting precedents. The same scenario is ruled, about differently, and the judge was the one complaining. So consistency, that how you handle a situation is how you handle a similar situation, unless you realize that you had made a mistake. And I remember one of the judges saying that in such a case, you take the most current ruling to guide you if you are from the lower court. It means that people have realized a new development. Why are we emphasizing ethical leadership? The benefits are clear. You create a high trust environment where people can be free to take initiative, be innovative, but also to perform. So there is enhanced trust where there is ethical leadership. There is improved morale. There is even better decision making because you are fair and you don't hurt anyone. You go to reduced conflicts. You can have higher retention for the staff, by the way, even for the students in a university setting like ours. Enhanced reputation. Some universities are in fact now well known for promoting values and integrity, for promoting ethical behavior. So there is that enhanced reputation. But also you can create loyalty. Everybody wants to associate with that university, and the employees there will say, we belong to this university, because they are not ashamed of their employer. They know the reputation is high up there. You've got stakeholder satisfaction. I worked in another university before coming to Cavendish University, Uganda, and I know that the Governor Bank of Uganda that time had said, if a student from that university, it was Uganda Matters University, then said, if a student from that university is the second or third best in an interview, take that one for all our jobs with the Bank of Uganda. I'm sure you could say the same of Ashesi and other universities. This is where we are heading. It's what we want to see. Because they know there is that aspect which is not usually tested in the interviews, the aspect of ethical conduct. So they know even if you are the second best or third best, you can still perform, especially if you are backed by ethical behavior. So you are likely to have long-term success. And so these are some of the benefits that we are talking about. So where do the educators come in? What is the role of educators in values-based education? I always say that the first requirement of an educator is to lead by example, to set an example. Recently, I was speaking in Zambia to the students and to the staff, and I said, in my slightly over 20 years of teaching in the university, I never went to class late once. Not once. Not even once did I go to class late. It's because I wanted to set an example. I always went to class in time. I never missed a class without informing the students through their leader, informing the coordinator or my immediate supervisor or a program coordinator, and looking for somebody to cover my duration on agreement that I will also cover his or hers when that time comes, because I would have come back from where I would have gone. So I never left it to anyone just to say, I am absent, somebody is sick, I'm going to hospital, I'm attending to a family event, and then I just disappear. It never happened. When I was not a dean, I would go to a dean. When I was not a program coordinator, I would go to a program coordinator and say, there is something that is taking me away. But I have informed the students, and so is coming to cover my time. When I come, I will compensate by covering his time. And I would write and put all those in copy. That is setting an example that you don't just disappear. Because if you are driving a commercial bus and you are a driver, it is waiting for passengers, they get in, and then the driver disappears. What would they think? Just imagine such a scenario. There is no driver, passengers are in the bus, the conductor is around, then they say the driver has gone with the kids. We don't know where he has gone, even the conductor doesn't know. it's akin to a situation where a teacher disappears. I always don't like excuses. Oh, I had a sick person. You can organize with a colleague to occupy your time, and you occupy the time of that colleague. Inform the students, inform your immediate supervisors. When you are going to come to class, come in time. I never came even 5 minutes late. No. Set an example. Number 2, work out the curriculum in such a way that you can integrate values within your curriculum. We tend to concentrate on the traditional content of the subject matter that is related as a discipline you are taking, you are teaching. If it is food science or information technology, software engineering, public health, you can get a way of integrating within the curriculum and within the syllabus values and ethics. Integrate those. So curriculum design and integration of values within the curriculum or within the syllabus. Another one is to facilitate open discussion where values are actually clearly openly talked about without fear or favor. You can think about what we call character education. I'm going to be speaking about character education in the next couple of minutes. I think it's very important and critical to what we are talking about, promotion of ethical leadership and values-based teaching and learning. Other things include critical thinking. Then people, because when people are critical thinkers, they can appraise the decisions they want to take and realize that they can hurt somebody. They are not fair. So you can promote critical thinking. Promotion of diversity and inclusivity is always important. Usually when there is lack of values or of good ethical conduct, minorities tend to suffer. Foreigners tend to suffer. People tend to look at themselves from their social perspective. And they say so and so does not belong to us. There is a discrimination. So we need to openly promote diversity and inclusivity. In Cavendish University, Uganda, this is not a big problem because there are many students who are international. In fact, for quite a long time, the Ugandans were saying we are threatened. They are discriminating against us, and they used to appeal whenever they lost in the guild elections or in the when people are having contests, you know, about preparing food and cultural gala and all. So we are past that stage, and we have a very inclusive and diverse society with social acceptability. Teachers can encourage what we call service learning. Service learning is where some of the student activities for learning are taken to the community and are actually in the form of service to the community. If I'm teaching public health and I'm teaching monitoring nutritional status of different people by doing body mass index, mid-upper arm circumference, we call it MOAC, I can actually take students to the community, organize a camp, a public health camp, and measure weight and advise people and determine whether people are underweight, overweight, or highly overweight, and give them education on the risk factors and also the likely dangers and what they can do. And they provide a service. If it is food quality testing, I take them to a place where they are serving food. And they say, we want to do food quality testing here. We will help you with what you can do to make your food better. So that is service learning. You take students to provide the service and learn while they are also providing the service. But of course, teachers can undergo CPD that can help them to advance themselves in terms of understanding values-based teaching and ethical leadership. I wanted to say something about character education, and I'm looking at the time that I have given to myself. I will be winding up shortly. Character education focuses on the development of ethical character traits among the students. We all know that education without character does not take you anywhere. We like to do triangles of success triangles, and they can be done in different ways. One which I like, a kind of model, is where you have qualifications and knowledge. Qualifications confirm that you have that knowledge actually. Some of the jobs you can't do when you don't have qualifications, even if you have the knowledge. You can't be a pleader, an advocate of high court without the qualifications. Even if you can defend somebody effectively. You have heard of a man in Kenya who had successfully defended over 25 people in different cases, 25 cases, and won, but they realized he was not an advocate of the high court, and he has been chased away. So you can have qualifications, knowledge and qualifications on one side. On the other side, you can have people, because collaboration, you work with people. In other one, resources. In between, within the triangle, you have character. So character education, character development is very important. To give you a few aspects of character education, there should be emphasis on values and virtues, not just on discipline-specific content. Values and virtues should be integrated within the curriculum, which means also measured when you are doing the assessment. There should be sufficient doses of experiential learning where it is possible to take a decision based on values and virtues that we are talking about. You can, for instance, use a case study where a decision had to be made based on ethical principles, or which involve ethical dilemmas that needed careful handling in order to uphold high ethical standards. There's what we call social and emotional leadership. Let's maybe in the context of teachers talk of social and emotional learning. This is where aspects of emotional intelligence are integrated within your pedagogy, but also within your syllabus, so that students are able to understand their own feelings, their own character traits, but also to understand the impact of their behavior and actions on others, to be able to know what to do. Some people don't know that they are hurting others. So emotional intelligence is extremely important. A key aspect of character education is where teachers know that they are role modeling. Where they know that they are role modeling. They are punctual all the time because they know that students will learn from them to be punctual. They are extremely measured, even in their dress code, in their speech, in their physical presentation. Because they know that students are going to learn from them. When I was younger, there's a teacher who was limping for some reasons, but he's the one we liked most. So by the time I reached senior 3, all of us were limping in class because of that teacher. We admired him so much that we even started walking like him. It didn't occur to us that he was limping for some reasons. So, role modeling. There are character programs or special character activities, character influencing activities. For instance, in CUU, we have what we call a pledge of ethical leadership. Every student takes this at the time of graduation. It's not a vow, it's a pledge. Our thinking now is that you should take it when you are joining and take it when you are leaving, so that you see more of this and you keep weighing yourself. But other people also give character awards. They select some of the students that have become exemplary in terms of good character traits, ethical conduct, and they give them awards. They appreciate them. We need to have a values-based culture. Now, let me finalize by looking at what Dr. Russell was asking. How do you empower educators in this regard? How? One is CPD like this one. This is part of CPD, continuous professional development, where teachers, where employees are able to know about different aspects of ethical leadership, values-based work environment, and then this knowledge helps them to know what to do. So CPD is critical. But number two, peer learning. You encourage peer learning and collaboration. Teachers need to know that they can identify other teachers. Some of the methods that I started using case study method at a much earlier time than many of my senior colleagues when I started teaching in the university. It's because I looked for people to collaborate with from other universities. And I started learning from them. And I enjoyed teaching by using the case study method. You can look for coaching and mentorship. But we can also provide leadership support. We need to do assessment generally of our methods to see whether we are encouraging values and whether what we are doing is ethical. We need to do, you can even work out a tool that students and staff can actually fill out. And then we discuss this openly and we see where to change. I have talked about incorporating real-world scenarios in the classroom, scenarios that involve ethical dilemmas, situations of ethical dilemma. We need to encourage student voices, to encourage students to speak out. Here, I pursue an open door policy, but I also tell students that they can write. They don't have to walk in. They can write. And we have even encouraged students by giving email addresses to which they can direct their complaints. But quote examples and make themselves known, because nobody would penalize them. We maintain confidentiality, so we tell them, tell us who you are. We may want to seek for further clarification. We will take action and we will protect you. If a student simply writes without putting the name, we do not respond to anonymous complaints, because we cannot be able to probe. Yet we actually protect those who say, I am so and so. We protect them, we investigate, we give them feedback, we are accountable to them. So we encourage student voices. We also encourage community partnerships. There are some organizations out there that are promoting ethical leadership, promoting inclusivity, promoting fairness, working with them, like Gender Resource Center, like, when you work with them and bring them to speak to your students and speak to members of your staff in your community, something is working. I have talked about recognition and appreciation of those who are doing well in matters of ethical behavior and conduct. Some of those strategies can help to empower educators and the non-teaching staff within the university to promote ethical behavior. I thank you, and I wish you a good webinar. I can take the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Mugisha, for for the entire presentation and the practical approaches that you have shared. We will continue to ponder on them and to determine on how to actually move. The information can be overwhelming, but I am sure when we sit back, get into smaller groups, we will actually discuss and see how to roll this out, because it is very, very helpful. Do we have any questions for Professor Mugisha? At this point, would like to take some questions, any areas that would like him to clarify? Or you could actually post your question in the chat box as we go along. We will be able to address it. Thank you so much, Prof, once again. We do appreciate that presentation. And we believe that as a team, we should be able to pick on some of what you have shared and actualize within our setting. So at this moment, allow me welcome our should have been second presenter, but I believe everything is timely. I would like to welcome Dr. Vincent Ogutu to speak to us this afternoon. Dr. Vincent Ogutu, kindly confirm that you are there, and please turn on your video. I will make a brief introduction. So
we can see him. We can see him.
Okay, sorry. Yes, welcome, Dr. Vincent Ogutu. We're very privileged to have you this afternoon. And we also recognize that you have many conflicting assignments, but making time for us. And the fact that when you came to Cavendish University, it stuck. You made time for us in one of our classes to share on how someone said to make a killing CV. I sat in that classroom and I also picked a few things for my next endeavor. Thank you so much. So members, I would like to welcome Dr. Vincent Ogutu. He is the Vice Chancellor of Strathmore University in Kenya. Dr. Ogutu is specialized in the psychology of meaningful work. Specialized in the psychology of meaningful work while studying at Rutgers University, and investigated how social entrepreneurs come to see their work as a calling. He has given keynote addresses on the subject at IESE Business School in Spain, and also in Ireland, Nigeria, Uganda, Germany, and Uruguay, including a TED Talk in Barcelona. While studying entrepreneurship in New York, he was drawn into the field of innovation and presented his own tech innovation at Google in New York, creating the innovation algorithm in the process. He has taught this new system of innovating on 3 continents and is regularly invited to train innovation teams in companies in Kenya. And I believe as Cavendish University, we will also have that opportunity for him to come and step into our classroom once again and share. Dr. Ogutu is a passionate educator, dedicates himself to inspiring people and organizations to live a life of purpose, transforming the communities around them using business innovations as a force for good. He is an organization behavior scholar, a developer, and entrepreneur. Join me in welcoming Dr. Vincent Ogutu to speak to us this afternoon on actualizing of giving voice to value approaches within a university setting. I know that is one of the challenges that we face in our different spheres of work. So welcome, Dr. Ogutu. You have 45 minutes, valuable minutes, and we are looking forward to learning from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lydia, and greetings, Prof. Mugisha. Good to see you, and great to be back in Cavendish. It's a pity I'm doing it online. I would very much have loved to be there again with all of you. I had a fantastic visit just a few weeks ago, and I loved what you people are doing. I think you're building a great university, and a good sign of that is the kind of topics that you're focusing on. So giving so much importance to a topic like this one is a good sign. It shows you're on the right direction. So I wanted to start by just making us reflect a little bit on why this topic is so important. Now, I don't know about Ugandans, but Kenyans are very self-critical. We are very self-critical as a country. I know many people in Africa say, well, you have an easy time compared to us. You people are lucky. And it's true, we've been blessed in many ways. But at the same time, I think because we know we can get something better, we have very high expectations, and we're therefore very self-critical. So when we see things not coming out the way they could be, we really criticize our leaders, we criticize ourselves, and we complain a lot. Okay, just checking. There's a bit of feedback. Let's just attend to that. Okay, I think we're good now. So as a country, we're very self-critical. And one of the reasons we bash ourselves so much is just the level of corruption that we see. You can find an entire project that disappears, maybe a dam that was meant to be built, that would have impacted thousands of people, changed the lives of so many people, and then the money disappears. It goes in the pockets of a few people who got the project to be approved, for the funding to be brought, and then they just disappeared with the money. And to make matters worse, they don't end up in prison. They simply take the whole thing spinning in courts forever. And that's a common thing that happens in our country. And so it leaves people very frustrated. Or you find maybe an entrepreneur. We know Prof. Mugisha here is an entrepreneur. So somebody wants to start a business. They've seen an opportunity. They've seen a problem that they can solve. They can bring the solutions. They're ready to invest. And somebody out of nowhere says, I won't register you unless you pay a certain amount or you give me a certain share. And they say, wait a minute, you've not done anything to help this business. I'm the one bringing the resources, bringing the expertise, caring to solve the problem. And you want 10% just like that. And the people will be adamant, yes, they want their 10%. And the fellow says, look, I'm not even going to make much of a profit. If I give away 10%, I might as well not bring the business to Kenya. And guess what? They will actually hold to their demand. And so if the business doesn't come to Kenya, they'll be like, too bad. Let me talk to somebody else who's ready to pay my 10%. And so you get opportunities that could have helped many people that simply didn't happen because a few people wanted to pocket the money and they had the callousness to actually follow through on their threats and denying the whole country of benefits we would have had. So if you're like me, you get very frustrated when you see corruption and lack of ethics basically bringing a whole society down. And when you ask us, what do we need in Africa? I think ethics is the number one thing that we need in Africa. I know you could mention many other things. We need money, we need to get out of poverty, we need to feed the hungry, we need to build healthcare systems, but none of this will happen if we continue to live in unethical societies. In fact, we have a lot of talent in Africa. We have so many talented people. All those problems I've mentioned, we have people who have solutions. So if it's hunger, it's not rocket science. You know, how do you grow things, irrigate, not be at the mercy of the elements, droughts, floods? it's been studied before, it's been figured out. We can even just copy paste if we just had the energy and the will to do it. All these things can be solved by our talented people, but lack of ethics comes in the way and stops us from making progress. And maybe it's touched you personally. You want to go somewhere, you can't. You want a certain promotion, you can't get it because somebody else is favored unethically. Opportunities are not even presented to you because only those in the know or in the inner circle will get it. We're constantly seeing ethics being flouted and the best being left behind because they're not given the opportunities. And it can be so frustrating. So the reason we're even discussing this at all is because this is the #1 issue we need to deal with in Africa. We deal with this, the rest will follow easily with all the talent we have, with all the goodwill from people who want to do a good work in the continent. We can actually sort it out. So it's important. We have to be convinced that we're not just paying lip service to this topic. This topic is crucial, and we as educators have a role to play. So that's the second thing we need to pay attention to here. Once we appreciate the magnitude of the problem and how it's stopping us from making progress, the next thing we need to do is, what can I do to somehow realize that, look, I have a role to play in changing this society. We can't leave it to our leaders and hope that at some point everything will change, that it's almost a matter of evolution. You know, look at Europe and the States and, you know, where they've reached in their journey towards fighting corruption. We'll also get there. It's just a question of time. Obviously, they have their issues too, but the way we tend to look at it is they went through the situations we're going through. It's just a historical artifact, and at some point things will improve. You just have to be patient. Not really. We need to do something. We need to feel that we can do something about it. And if we are educators, and that's what we're doing in this university space, then we can make that difference. If we think it's a leadership issue, then we are the ones forming the future leaders. Just ask yourself what percentage of students who start school every year, I'm talking P1, students who start primary school, how many of those end up in a university like Cavendish, Strathmore? How many? Ashesi, how many will end up in university? And I dare say, at least in Kenya, I know it's about 10% or less. So of all the students who are 7 years old and start school every year, less than 10% of those students will end up in university. These are going to be the most highly educated members of that cohort, of that generation in their country. And so what we are doing as educators at the university level is we are training the top 10%. We are the ones responsible for training the leaders. And if society is going to changed by the leaders, then we have a huge role to play. Somehow we have to inculcate in our students the belief that they simply have to be ethical leaders. There's no other way to live their lives. And that's basically, it's like a religion. You have to preach it. There is no way you'll just say it, and everyone has heard it before. Even corrupt people speak against corruption. That is the part that hits me the most, when people who are clearly corrupt come up in public condemning corruption, when they know they're doing it, when we all know they're doing it. So it's totally ineffective. When I speak to people who are finishing high school in Kenya, and I ask them, what do you want to become when you go to university? Or what do you want to become in life? And I get this surprising reply. Some of them tell me, I want to get into procurement, which is a shock, because procurement as a career most of the time when people were in high school are asking to get into procurement as a career, we all know what they're thinking of. And it's not about improving processes and making companies get the best deals that they can get, the best contracts that they can sign. It's not about that. It's about what can I get as a procurement official in terms of the kickbacks and the deals that are offered to me. That's how they think of enriching themselves. And so you can see how lost this generation is, and therefore how big a task we have to convince them otherwise. And I say to convince them because by just telling them that, oh no, that is wrong, you can't do that, that's not going to convince them. If you tell them, like in the old days, that being unethical doesn't count, they will laugh at you and say, actually, that is the pathway to wealth. Look at everyone around you. Look at all these fellows. This is how they made their money. What do you mean it doesn't count? It's not going to help you. And what sort of alternative are you giving me? And when you tell them what we were told growing up, you know, do well in school, get a good job, keep rising up the ranks and getting promoted, and you'll become wealthy and then retire as a wealthy person. They're not interested in that. They want to be wealthy in their 20s and retire in their 30s. And they know that by just working hard, there's no way they'll make that kind of money. And so what they say is we have to work smart. We have to figure out how to dip our hands in the pot where the money is, get it right now. And those of us who are clever enough will steal so much that we can't actually be put in prison because we'll pay off the judges, and there's no way anyone's putting us in prison. The ones who go to prison are the ones who steal very little. The ones who steal a lot, nothing happens to them. And our students are not blind. They're actually looking at our societies and they're seeing what's happening. And so they figure, you know, this is the formula. This is the formula to become rich. Steal a lot of money, so much so that it acts as an insurance to protect you so that you can enjoy the rest of that money. So imagine you now come as a lecturer at Cavendish, or you're an administrator, a mentor, whichever role you're playing in the university, and you're trying to tell students that they should be honest. If they decide to engage with you in an open discussion, no holds barred, they'll probably tell you cynically, are you serious? Look around you. Look around you. I mean, this isn't leading anywhere. And so you have to convince them. How are you going to convince them? So that's a big question, because they're looking at the evidence that what you're saying is not going to lead to success the way they've defined it for themselves. So it's an uphill task, and we have to, first of all, be very convinced ourselves that what we're teaching is worthwhile and works. And then we have to have the eloquence and ability to convince other people. And it's not easy. We're going to tackle some of it today. And I didn't attend Dinah's session, but I listened to Professor Mugisha's session, and it made a lot of sense in terms of the things that we should do. But in order to get us there, I want us to first take 1 or 2 steps back to understand what exactly we're talking about so that we understand how to deal with it. So I'll start with the word values. Why do we even talk about values? Why do companies get up and say, these are our core values? Why do countries write national values in their constitution? What is the magic behind the word value? Do people actually believe that once you say these are our core values, something will change? I mean, clearly there's some kind of belief that having values, well selected and well articulated values, will make a difference. And so we need to unpack the magic behind the word values? So I want you to ask yourself that question, and if you can type an answer in the chat, fantastic. What do you think values are? What is a value? You know, I'm typing it here. You know, so just read that. So what is a value? You know, why is it such a powerful concept? If it actually takes root, it is incredibly powerful. And we need to ask ourselves, what is a value? Now, when Prof. Mugisha was talking, he said, we have to teach character. And he mentioned two things. He said, we have to teach virtues and we have to teach values. What's the difference? So I'm typing these questions because understanding them is crucial to knowing what we will do next. So I've typed another question there. You know, what is the difference between a virtue and a value? We know values are important. We know virtues are important. What is the difference between a virtue and a value? Because once we know some of these things so well and understand them really well, we can now begin to use them. They become a tool. So David Mutabanura says, a value is something that is very important. You might think that that is just, you know, a truism. You're just telling us like something good is something good. No. When he says a value is something that is very important, he doesn't mean that, you know, the way we talk about many things are important, values are important, virtues are important, honesty is important. He doesn't mean it that way. He means that when we talk about a value, we're talking about something that is of tremendous importance to us, something that we value. I value this. In other words, it's incredibly important to me. So I think you have to understand him in context. Otherwise, you might read his statement very quickly and say, oh, no, he hasn't told us anything. We know values are important, you know, but he's not saying values are important. He's saying a value is something that is very important. So if something is very important to you, it means you value it. You give value or importance to it. Then Lydia says it's a moral trait. Virtue is a moral trait. Okay. Let's see what people are saying. Olutayo, what is important to the organization or country? It identifies who we are, dictates what we do, how we do it. Yes, so when you articulate your values, you're basically saying, these are the things that we want to focus on. These are the things that describe who we are. You know, this is the kind of people we are. People who uphold this value and that value and that value. It describes us. And in fact, one of my examples, which I got from a Ugandan friend of mine who lived in Kenya, we went to school together. He's called Mboa. And he told me that even when he was naughty at home, if let's say he was going to be punished, and if let's say his mom said, okay, there's no food for you, you've been a bad boy, then his father would come and say, no, not among the Mboas. In the Mboa family, you will never go hungry. No matter what happens, a Mboa will not go to bed hungry. But young man, we shall deal with this tomorrow and I will deal with you and you will pay for your actions. But you're not going to go to bed hungry because no Mboa goes to bed hungry. So his dad would make that clear. And I found it interesting. He said this with so much pride. You know, like my family valued that whole thing of, you know, no one goes hungry. but we will discipline you. But no, we will not use food as a tool for punishing. So, I mean, every family has its identity. It has the things they value, and they say it with a lot of pride, like no Mboa goes to bed hungry. That is not going to happen. That does not happen in our family. So a value really does define who you are, what you're proud of, what you consider important. And somebody has written here, values are our beliefs that shape our characters. And I agree, it's a belief. In fact, I have my own definition in which I say values are beliefs that are so deep, and I'm trying to type this as I speak, that they control the way we think, feel, and act. So I've typed it there. This is my own sort of personal definition of what values are. So values are beliefs that are so deep, they control the way we think, feel, and act. Now, let me give you an example. So I've given you the example of the Mboa family from Uganda, where the dad says, no, 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 no. I believe that my children cannot go to bed hungry. And so when he hears the suggestion from his wife, like, this boy has been so bad, he will not eat, he immediately reacts, no, 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 no. In our family, that has never happened. That cannot happen. So it controls the way he acts. He knows that what his wife is saying is also important, but he doesn't agree on the method they should use to punish this young man. And he says, look, this one, I believe in it so much, I can't compromise on it. I know we're dealing with a punishment that needs to be given, but not this one. This one, from my heart of hearts, my whole psyche, my whole upbringing prevents me from doing it, because all the way from my grandparents to my parents to myself, we believe we can't do that. We can't send a kid to bed hungry, no matter what you did. So it controls the way you believe, the way you feel. He feels like, oh, no, no, no. The immediate reaction is emotional. And what he then does is an action, like, no, sit down, eat, you're Mboa. Be proud of being Mboa, because if you are not Mboa, you would have gone to bed hungry tonight. But tomorrow will teach you all the other things that we Mboa stand for, and you violated the Mboa values, and you're going to be punished for it. And you will see what I will do to you. But the actions are following the belief. Let's take some examples, and now we can look at national values, okay? Because many countries are good at writing in their constitutions, these are our national values. Even companies, even universities, we will write, these are our core values. But I only believe it if I see it in action. You know, it's a bit like what Jesus Christ says in the Gospels, you know, by their fruits, you will know them. So you will know by their fruits, you will know by their actions, whether they are genuine or not. So you can listen to them. They'll tell you many beautiful things. By their fruits, you shall know them. Their fruits are the way they think, the way they react, meaning the feelings, and the way they act. So if somebody suggests that you should bribe to get something done, if you don't even bat an eyelid, you're not even scandalized, it means you see nothing wrong in it. So your judgment, your thinking, does not judge it as wrong. And if you don't feel immediately like in shock, like you suggested, what? No, I can't do that. So just your reaction, your emotional reaction, even tells you what you believe. If you're actually tempted, you know, the fellow says, we will pay you good money to admit the students to Cavendish. You know, we know the papers are not quite right, but we will bring some other papers, and your job is just to accept it. Don't do the due diligence. Don't check whether those certificates are okay or not. And the money is good. If you're not shaking inside, it means you don't have a deep belief that honesty is something we should be doing. So you're not even shocked. You're not, the fact that you're even feeling tempted is already showing maybe your belief is not that solid. But again, let me not be too harsh on you. Feeling temptation doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means you've not reached a level where you can't be tempted. What really matters is what you do, not how you feel. So if you feel tempted, the kind of money being offered to you is huge. And the things you could do with that money are many. And you're actually inclined to do it, but you tell yourself, this is wrong. I cannot do this. Then you're a hero, you're fantastic, because you had to overcome the temptation in order to do the right thing. So the fact that you are tempted doesn't make you a bad person. It just means you're human. But of course, the more you practice your values, the more you get to a level where even your emotions are aligned with your beliefs, so that the kind of reaction you have emotionally is already the correct one. In other words, you're not even tempted, you're disgusted that somebody suggested that you do something like that, and they can see the horror and disgust in your face, which of course makes it easy for you to then say no, because you already don't even feel like doing it. So that's at the highest level where your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions are aligned. So the values are a deep belief, they're a real belief. Now, let me give you some national examples. We saw what the Japanese did at the last World Cup, how they cleaned the stadium before they left. Why? Because among their national values are respect, courtesy, and they think it's just downright rude to go to somebody's place and leave it with garbage all over the place, to leave it littered. It goes against the principle or the value of respect or courtesy. And it's actually a national value. And so don't think this was a publicity stunt. They actually, even if they were not being filmed, they would have done it. They would have cleaned after themselves and left the stadium clean. Just interact with the Japanese. So the courtesy is basically at another level. When they're saying goodbye to you, they're bowing. Then as they leave and walk away, they keep turning to see if you're looking at them. If you're still looking at them, they continue bowing. Until they reach the door, they'll bow one last time and then shut the door, and now they're free to walk freely. But before that, they feel out of respect, I have to keep bowing to this person. I have to be the last one to bow. And it's just courtesy. It's a national value, and every one of them is like that. It'll be very hard to find a rude Japanese. Like you tell me, I went to this hotel and the waiters were rude to me, or the receptionists were rude to me. In Japan, like seriously, are you kidding me? Like, I can't believe it. Why? Because it just doesn't happen. The whole country has been socialized in a particular way. Let me give you another value and another national example. Let's look at the value of excellence, okay? That you want to do things well. Now, imagine you bring me a machine, and imagine it's even a lawnmower, okay? And it is crooked, it's not working. It's even a shock that this thing ever left the shop anywhere. And then the fellow who is trying to sell it to you tells you, this is a good lawnmower, good machine. You look at it, you're very doubtful. Then the fellow tells you, look here, look, it's written, made in Germany. I'm sure I can't see you laughing because your cameras are not on, but I can imagine some of you are laughing right now at the suggestion that a machine like that could have been made in Germany. Impossible to imagine that any self-respecting German would release such a machine from their factory. Like impossible, impossible to imagine. Now, we have all kinds of industries in Kenya. There's one we call Juakali, and they do all kinds of repairs and even construction, they can make things, they can make machine parts and all of that. Sometimes they're very good, but very often there's no consistency. So something terrible could have been made and I'll say, yeah, that looks kind of Juakali. You do get some Juakali who are very good, to be fair with them. But generally, if you just tell me this was a Juakali thing, what you're telling me is there's no guarantee of standards here. You would actually have to know the person who made it to be sure you're getting quality. But if I'm getting a machine from Germany, I know the quality is guaranteed just because it can be certified to have come from Germany. Why? Because the national value of doing things excellently is at such an advanced stage. I can't imagine a German releasing something from their workshop that will let the whole country down like that, and them personally, that it can be said that such a thing left their shop. Very hard to imagine. Now, why am I telling you this story? It's because, first of all, I want you to see the power of values, that values can actually make you do incredibly good things. And the second reason I'm telling you these stories is to give you hope, because we are so cynical, especially as Kenyans, maybe as Ugandans too, where you say, no, nothing will change. It has been like this all our lives. Forget it, nothing, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna change. So we can be very cynical. But when you see a country that has achieved a national value, it should give you pause. It should make you step back and say, gosh, you mean it's possible? You mean you can teach an entire group of people how to behave a certain way and they do it? Not because they're going to be punished, but out of pride. Like we don't do things like that. You know, so a value will make you act in a certain way and it'll prevent you from acting in certain ways. Because in my family, in my church, in my religion, in whatever community I come from, we don't do that. Like it is unheard of. We simply don't do that. That's a deep belief. Now, a quick word on virtues. Virtues are habits. So you see, values are something in your heart. It's something you believe. It's in your heart and mind. And it can lead to you behaving a particular way. Now, virtues are habits, meaning you have been behaving that way for so long that it's now second nature to you. You can do it almost with your eyes closed. It's actually easy for you to do it. So Prof. Mugisha was talking about punctuality, showing up on time. If you do it normally, then it becomes something you don't even think about. It's almost effortless because this is what you do. You have the habit. But for somebody who's not used to being on time, they have to make a huge effort to actually make it on time. And every time they make it on time, it's because they made a huge effort. And if they don't make a huge effort, they will not be on time because they don't have the habit. They have, in fact, the opposite habit, which is called a vice. So if you do the right thing many times, it becomes practiced and practiced until it becomes part of you. And now we can say you have a virtue. Virtue comes from the Latin word virtus, which means strength. So it's a strength that you have. So when you have a particular virtue, it's a strength. It's something that you've done so many times. It's now easy for you to do it. So your values, those beliefs, should lead to actions, which if repeated often enough, should lead to habits. And now we'll know you for your virtuous, exemplary behavior. But of course, if you are to tell us about your values, what you believe, we will find it hard to believe unless we see it in action. And I don't mean you have to be perfect for us to believe you. We have to see you trying. The fact that you're trying shows that you believe in it, that you want to be better. So imagine you all decide these are our values going forward. Then it means we all have to make the effort. And as long as we see you making the effort, you actually have the moral high ground that allows you to speak to other people and say, you guys are not trying at all. I'm appalled at the fact that you're not trying. Can't you see, even I'm struggling to do this, I'm trying. you can see me trying to be on time, and you will see maybe I'm getting more and more on time, maybe 10 minutes late, then 5 minutes late, then 1 minute late. You can see the struggle. You can see that the person is trying. They are not yet on time, but you can see the struggle. Definitely, the value is there. And now what's missing is the virtue. But given enough time, that person will have the virtue. But the fact that they're trying gives them the power to talk to other people and to tell them, hey, you guys are not trying. You guys, I need you to try, because you can see I'm trying as well. So then I was meant to touch a little bit on how Strathmore teaches values and teaches virtues. We obviously teach it in class. We do have ethics curricula and we teach ethics. But as you were told, what will really make you powerful when you teach is not the words themselves, but your own behavior. They have to see you living what you teach. And since ethics is the topic here, and this is what we're looking at here, they have to see you exemplifying ethics. And you might say, well, I've not stolen anything. I've not been convicted in court of any crime, so I'm an ethical person. No, that doesn't cut it. If you're going to inspire your students to be ethical, they have to see you doing something inspirational. And here are a few examples that could basically help you to teach ethics. So one is, for instance, just being honest. So if you don't know something, don't bluff. Just tell them, that's a great question. I'm afraid I don't have a very good answer for you right now. And I don't want to mislead you people by giving you a guess. So please allow me to come back to you tomorrow and to give you what I hope will be a good answer. Now that's being honest. And it's hard because traditionally, we professors are supposed to know everything. We know, they learn from us. So what is this thing about admitting ignorance? Like, terrible, I can't do that. My reputation will go down. I have to bluff and seem to know what I'm saying. Otherwise, my reputation goes down. No, by bluffing and being wrong, now you're destroying your reputation. First of all, you're proving that you're not honest. And that's terrible. And then secondly, you'll prove that you're ignorant, which is what you were trying to defend yourself against. So what you should do is live the virtue of humility. Humility is basically acknowledging the truth. And if the truth in this case is, I actually don't know. I know it's surprising. I'm your professor. I have a PhD in this stuff, but suddenly I don't think I have a good answer for you guys. And I only want to give you good answers. So tomorrow I'll give you a good answer. So you've admitted you don't know. You've given them permission in future to also admit when they don't know, so that when they do speak, they speak sense, not bluffing. And then the next day you've done your research, you come and give a fantastic answer. They'll applaud. And you've taught them to be honest because you are honest. You've taught them to be humble because you are ready to be criticized for not knowing something so obvious. But you're basically telling them no one is perfect. And even a PhD in something can make a basic error in that particular subject. So don't be cheated that a PhD can't make a mistake. They can, and I'm just demonstrating to you right now that there are things I don't know. But because I'm a PhD, I can find it out very quickly, explain it really well, and package it perfectly for you. And that's what I did when I did my research and came back and told them. So be honest. Show them with your own actions. And then keep your word. If you tell them, I'll give you your scripts tomorrow, don't give excuses. If you have to burn the midnight oil, deliver on your promises. That's also honesty. Not saying, keeping them, like postponing the problem and telling them, oh, no, I didn't bring it, but I'll bring it tomorrow, not to worry. So because you've made them relax by making a promise, you've gotten yourself off the hook. But the problem will come back tomorrow because you didn't keep your word. And eventually, they won't take you seriously. When you say tomorrow, they'll be like, yeah, which means you've lost your credibility. So teach them ethics as well by keeping your word. If you say tomorrow, break your back to make it tomorrow. Spend a sleepless night. Come there looking tired and you say, look, guys, If I'm looking tired and sleepy today, it's because I kept my promise to you that I would have graded all these cuts, and here they are. And you better take them seriously because I made the effort to grade them. But you see, what you're teaching them really is you kept your word. You made a promise and you followed through on it. And then when you're fair, so you're not favoring any particular students or people from a certain community or whatever, they see that you really try to be fair, that you actually listen. You don't sort of overrule before you've even listened. You sort of like say, yeah, explain it to me. What is distressing you? What is the problem? And then you listen. And this goes for administrators as well, not just for the lecturers. So you're dealing with a particular issue. You made a promise, like tomorrow we will have sorted it out. Please sort it out by tomorrow. Or you say next week, I'll sort it out. If one day to the deadline, you realize it's impossible, have the courtesy to reach to that student or that parent and say, I know I promised to sort it out, but I've reached a point where I don't have the people around who need to sign it. I know you're planning on getting it tomorrow. I'm just letting you know in advance. It's almost impossible for me to meet that deadline, but I will try. I'll keep on trying. But of course, if there's an alternative plan they can make, they're already beginning to make that plan because you've told them ahead of time, because you care. It's again what Professor Mugisha was telling you. If you know you won't make it to a particular session, but you value your students, then you will organize for someone to be there so that they don't waste their time. So all of this are things that you will do. So anyway, I wanted to leave you with that. I hope this has been helpful, and we'll probably take questions now. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Ogutu. You have shared from your heart, and I kept reflecting what we actually, we keep saying, I am excellent, I have integrity, but if you went down to actually dig deeper, there's a lot of room for improvement. Well, we know that conversations like this trigger improvement, they trigger our own self-evaluation. Personally, I want to appreciate that. Yes, it has triggered something, I believe, for the rest of the people. So at this point, I would like to take a few questions. Dr. Ogutu has communicated. Let us speak back. Any questions in the chat? Dr. Russell, would you like to say something? Yes, Dr. Russell says, Prof. Ogutu, again, let me thank you for your practical presentation. Outside of value and virtue, what are other causes and consequences of ethics being disregarded within society? And what steps can individuals and communities take to address and rectify such behavior?
Okay, so you have to start with yourself, because we can always point fingers and say the government should do it, and it's true. The higher the leaders who exemplify the values we talk about, the quicker they will spread in society. There's no doubt about that. But there's also the fact that you can start your own little revolution wherever you are. You set your standards, your values. You're like, I will not cross this red line. Personally, this is how I live my life, no matter what the consequences are. Now, those are the most powerful lessons. When you're ready to even go down for your values, that's a powerful, powerful lesson. I saw a hand go up and then it went down.
There's a hand from Evans. Evans, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you, Lydia. And thank you very much, Dr. Ogutu. I think your points were very clear. I just want to ask, you know, amidst promoting values and some of these ethical traits, in a working environment, we always have competing factors, other competing priorities. I just wonder how, like, of course, when we talk like this, the points come out, but in typical environment and enterprise or whatever, we are clogged with so many other items that do not even give us a chance to look at this as a priority. Could this be the reason why, for example, in Africa, we are having these challenges? Because I think in Africa, we have so many things that bombard us to the extent that talking about values almost comes a by the way.
Very, very, very good question, because you see, whatever you pay attention to is what you consider important. That's the reality. So if I were to reverse engineer you in order to define your values, so meaning you don't tell me your values, I just observe you, and then I'm asked to guess what your values are. It'll be quite easy to guess it. I just have to look at what do you pay attention to, what do you respond to. That must be what is most important to you. Therefore, those are the things that, as David was saying, you consider important, you value. Those are your values. So when I now talk about some things that would force you to behave differently, you might say, no, I don't have time for that. I'm busy trying to put bread on the table, paying fees, making ends meet, meeting expectations of all my relatives and spouse and children. And I don't have time for this. And basically what you're telling me is what you have time for, that's what you value. And you consider more important than these other things. So in order for you to switch and put any of these things above, your belief system would have to shift. You would have to, for instance, believe that you would rather be honest and poor than rich and dishonest. You would rather go hungry and be honest than be dishonest and have food on the table. Like, that's the level of belief you would need to reach. Otherwise, the ends justify the means. You will just say, what I want, I'll get by whatever means. No value system should come and interrupt. So it's very important for us to reflect and ask ourselves, ultimately, what is truly important for us? And you have to believe it, because if you don't, you can't pass it on to the students and the people that you're trying to teach. So for instance, they'll come to me and say, I can make money much quicker by being dishonest. So what's the big deal? Then I'll tell them it's true. You could make money much quicker by being dishonest. But here are a few things you need to look at. Look at the people who made money that way and died. Look at their families fighting each other for this man's wealth. Look at the sort of memories they have of this man. Look at how that money was made. Look at the families that were destroyed. The number of opportunities for the country that were lost because this person enriched himself or herself on the backs of all these people. Normally, people don't talk about it, but you shouldn't turn a blind eye to it because it is real. And so don't you care? Don't you care that you enrich yourself so quickly at the expense of people that you drive into poverty and desperation? Like, does it mean nothing to you? Open your eyes, open your conscience. And these are the things you will have to face. So if these are believers who believe there's life after death and judgment, this is exactly what you will be judged. So your measure of success is not going to be how much money you made, but what kind of a life did you live? What difference did you make in the lives of other people? And if it's all negative, 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 you're a disaster, you're a failure. And so you have to preach this to them because you believe it, because you think, you know, what does it benefit a man to gain the whole world and suffer the loss of his soul? Those words are real for you, they are real. And if they're real, then now suddenly your priorities will shift. You'll say, yes, I could make more money this way, but I won't. I will be honest, or I will be fair. Maybe it's even people under you who deserve a promotion, and you're so afraid that they'll take your job that you're undermining them and not bringing their story forward and presenting other people who you don't think are competitors for promotion and putting down these other people, all unethical behavior because you're protecting your own position, because you're unethical. But if you're ethical and you say, look, I'll be judged on what difference I made in other people's lives. If this person is better than me, then they will serve the organization better than I will. Let me give them a clear pathway to success, because all of us will benefit. Now, it might look like a loser's strategy, but it is not, because they will remember you on the way up. This is the person who unselfishly promoted me and gave me opportunities. Word will go around about the type of person you are. When opportunities arrive in areas where you have a strength and you can do better than them, they will refer you. And once word goes around that you're a person of integrity, that is much more prestigious than word going around that you're technically a very clever person in this and that field. Because even the people hire you know you're a gun for hire, that someone will bid a higher price and take you away from them. So they are hiring you with caution. But if you know this person, if he signs a contract and says, I'll give you the next 2 years of my life, I'm not going to suddenly break the contract. If there's any temptation to do so, I'll come to you and say, I've been offered twice the salary that you're offering me. I really could use that money for my family, but I know I gave you my word I'll be here for 2 years. Would you release me to pursue this? And the boss might very well say, I will not hold you. Thanks for actually even asking for permission. And if someone else says, no, it'll be a disaster to lose you. We can't afford, you gave us your word. We actually rejected other people. It's now too late to train them. We've invested so much in you. You'll be like, it's okay. I will stay. I will keep my word. And so you pass up that better opportunity and keep your word and stay there. And these are examples you should give in class to your students, and they'll think you're mad. And then you tell them, now, guess what? Everyone will remember that. The people who tried to hire you and pay you twice, and they couldn't get you because you're keeping your word, you think they'll forget you? They'll be like, this is exceptional. Who does that in our modern society? We want this guy. We will wait 1 year to get this guy. We want the kind of people who give their word and keep it. So now your prestige is no longer your technical expertise. It's your integrity. So your value on the market just goes up. Now, these are the messages you have to give your students, but you can't give it unless you believe it yourself. So you have to start from there. So if you tell me, I don't have time for anything, it's because you have time for something else, and that's what you value. Thank you. More questions?
Thank you, Dr. Ogutu. There's a question for you. With an example, draw a difference between personal principle and values in an ethical workplace.
Okay, so most workplaces will say that they have ethical values, and they'll even declare it and write it in their value statement. But every now and then they might ask you to do something unethical. And this is where your personal values have to come into play. You have to just say, no, sorry guys, I can't do that. I know it would be fantastic for the company, but I can't do that. So maybe you've had an interview and this person is the best candidate, but you know this other one is a friend of the other people on the panel and they want this other person to be hired. And you say, no, sorry guys, I think this other person is the one we should hire. And you stand your ground. So in that case, your personal values are going against whatever the rest of the team is doing. And you know that by standing your ground, you might make enemies. And you're ready to do so if that's the price to pay. And Chinwe here was talking about we need a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset to achieve this. I totally agree with her, because most people will tell me, oh, Vincent, you need to understand politics. Unless you play the game, you're out of the door. So you better just play the game. You're powerless, accept it, you're outnumbered. But look, everyone, guys, we will always be outnumbered. The ones who want to live according to proper ethical principles are far fewer than the rest. It's been said in the Bible, you know, the road that leads to heaven is narrower, the one that leads to hell is broad, and there are many people on it. So there's no surprise. We knew that. We're not doing this because it's easy. We know it's hard, and we know it's gonna be hard, but that shouldn't stop us. If you stop, it's because you're so afraid that you will lose opportunities, you will lose your job, and you will go nowhere in life, which I think is a bit of inferiority complex. If you value yourself, meaning you know how good you are, then you will not be afraid of anyone or anything or any organization. You'll just say, look, this is how I roll, this is what I do, take it or leave it. Now, if they leave it and they let you go, people somewhere will know that this is the only person we can trust, and you will get opportunities. And it's their loss to lose somebody so principled and so talented. It's okay. Go work for the competition. They'll live to regret having let you go. So don't be afraid, because if you just invest in yourself and you keep becoming better and better and better, you should never be afraid of anything, because you know that people are ready to pay for value wherever they see it. And as long as you have a value proposition to give, you will be on the market. You will be well sought after on the market. So do not be afraid. In order to live this values talk we're speaking about here, you need a certain virtue, which is called courage. So you need to have courage, but have that growth mindset and you'll be courageous.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Ogutu. Prof. Mugisha, your hand was up.
Come in, Prof.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Ogutu. This is high class. I was laughing to myself as you were giving practical examples and looking back to the situations I have been entangled in and saying, wow, here I could have done it better. So there are several lessons. Without being an expert on values myself, I was one time, not in the so distant past, requested by a government department to craft a national values framework and work out proposed steps, practical steps to achievement of, to the realization of national values, state of affairs in the country, and national integration. I worked out something and shared it with David. I thought he was better at understanding these things than myself. And then I went to make a presentation. When I reached there, my approach had been different. First of all, I looked at the national aspirations for the country. And so I thought that the national values should help us to get there. And I reached there, and then I found a delegation from Interreligious Council of Uganda, a delegation from the Uganda Joint Christian Council. These are the people I found. And some of the values I had proposed were not necessarily, were neither spiritual nor even ethical. Values like hard work, values like creativity. You quoted the Japanese, clean your mess, you know? Just clean your mess. National, so you would call it patriotism. And then I went to other values, and so there was a kind of debate. Those other things you are talking about are good, but are they values? If they are not a matter of ethics. So I want you to throw a comment on some of those proposals. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Prof. Actually, I love words and distinctions between words. And I was in Ireland last week, and I met somebody who's been teaching mindset in Ireland and across the world. And I sent him a question. I said, please send me a detailed answer to the difference between values, virtues, and mindsets. And I also threw in, words like attitudes, because a lot of these things are interrelated. There's some overlap. So some of the things that you mentioned could be what I call mindset, which is closer to an attitude. So, an attitude of hard work. Or right now, we have the example that was given by Chinwe about growth mindset. You know, it's an attitude, it's an approach to life. It's a way of looking at life. And sometimes we're dealing with that. So as an educator, what I'm trying to get across to students is I'm trying to make them believe in a certain value, in certain values. And so Chinwe, if this sounded like a clergyman's class, it's true. You're supposed to preach. There's no way you can convince someone to believe something. You know, it's a belief system. So you're trying to make them believe that this is important, more important than anything else, that your entire value will be based on your principles and your values, you know, not on your technical knowledge and how cleverer you are than others, that your hugest value on the market is your integrity. You have to preach it. And then I'm also trying to convince them to engage in the kind of repetitive behavior that will build virtues and giving them options. If you want to be good in this, here are some practical things you need to do every day. And if you do it every day, you will acquire this virtue and you will lose this vice. But then another thing that I'm trying to teach them is also a mindset. And I have a few that are among my favorites. I've got labels for them, and I try to teach them here at Strathmore. So one of the mindsets that I'm trying to teach here at Strathmore is, and I have a hashtag for it. I'm trying to type it here. Because we care. Okay, so why do I do a certain thing? Because I care. Why would I go the extra mile for that student or for that parent or that colleague of mine? Because I care. So if someone walks in my office, they propose something which can't be done because they are too late, the deadline has passed, and then I just sort of read them the procedures and say, sorry, nothing I can do. Then they walk out of my office broken, you know, despondent. I should care. I should say, look, sit down. I know you can't do it the way you want, but we need to get you to a better place. Here are some alternatives. You can't do this exam right now because you didn't meet the minimum requirement for attendance, but we're offering it next semester in the evening, so you can do it in the evening course as you do these other courses for which you'll have to plan, and then after a year, you'll have caught up with everyone else. They can see that I care, that I'm trying to help them, get them to a better place. So it's almost like a mindset. So because I care. There's another one I call bulldog tenacity. So with bulldog tenacity, if you know bulldogs, once they sink their teeth on something, they're not going to let go. So if they grab your shoe, they don't want to let go. You're trying to pull it out. The bulldog is just it's got its teeth on it. And so what I tell people is when you want something to happen, your mindset should be like bulldog tenacity. Like you hold on to something and you don't let go. And sometimes I do that. So I ask someone, has this been done? Then they'll say 80% done. Then they think they'll walk away and I'll let them go. No, bulldog tenacity. My teeth are in. What do you mean by 80% done? Then I find out they've not started. And now I know the truth. And, you know, I'm like, please just tell me the truth because we need this thing done by next week. And if I know where you are, I'll know whether we're going to fail. By you lying to me and then planning the excuses you'll tell me next week when the whole thing has failed, that's not going to help me. I'd rather know the painful truth right now that it's not been done, and then I'll get help or I'll assign it to several people because we can't afford to fail. This thing has to be delivered. This report has to be delivered to the regulator by next week, this time, and we're not planning to ask for an extension. We have our good name to uphold that we deliver on time. So if need be, we'll get help for you. We'll sort out why you hadn't started on time later on. What's more important for me right now is we get it done. If you don't tell me the truth, then we can't get moving. But of course, if I let them just get away with excuses, then I'll fail. So I should know when someone is taking me for a ride. So bulldog tenacity. What do you mean by 80% done? What has been done? What hasn't been done? And if I don't trust them, then I'll say, show me the parts that you've done so far. because they could also be taking me for a ride. And now they can't. They're like, my computer is down. I'm like, you have 1 hour to get that thing to me. So bulldog tenacity, you sink your teeth on something, you don't let go until you get what you're looking for. So these are mindsets. So, Prof. Mugisha, there are many things that you mentioned. Some of them might be mindsets, some might be virtues, some might be values. So, and they are all relevant to the conversation. Maybe what you should do is distinguish them and then say, let's have a chapter on values and then a chapter on how we will develop those virtues, what initiatives we'll use, or maybe a chapter on mindsets as well. So maybe if you said that, then they would be a bit clearer on whether you're talking values or talking mindsets.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Ogutu. Our time is fast spent, but very, very valuable. And at this moment, Prof. Olutayo, are you on the call? We want to do it the Ugandan way. We just don't say bye. It is said in Uganda we revenge, but we will not revenge. Would like to appreciate you. Prof. Olutayo, kindly
Yes.
would you give our presenters a vote of thanks, Dr. Dinah, Dr. Ogutu, and our very own Prof. Mugisha, for speaking to us on this subject. It was very engaging and thought-provoking.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Madam Lydia. I am privileged to have
Dr. Olutayo, Prof. Olutayo, sorry, are you able to turn on your camera? I would like to see you.
It's on. I am on. I hope you can see me.
Yes, we can. I can.
So as I was saying, it is indeed a privilege to be able to raise the vote of thanks to the amazing presenters. Of course, I'm sure everybody on this call has actually added so much to their knowledge and understanding, especially with regards to ethics and of course values. And as the presentation has been going on, I've been taking a lot of notes, and this is a lot to digest, but we will digest it, I believe. And so it is a pleasure to have you, Dr. Dinah. And one of the things I took away was the emphasis in your presentation, cultivating an ethical culture, modeling institutional, role modeling and institutional practices. And of course, one thing I took away out of the many is the fact that ethics can be institutionalized. And we have cases where you said even students bring things they found, valuable things, which of course is generally on our continent going against the grain. It's rare. And so it can be institutionalized, and it is very encouraging. Then of course, so it has been a pleasure, Dr. Dinah, very enriching, and loved the presentation. Our very own Professor Mugisha, as always, it's always a privilege when Professor Mugisha speaks. I always learn something new. And I've taken away the fact that, of course, you emphasize fostering ethical leadership, empowering educators for value-based voices. And I can't think of anyone better to deliver that message than Professor Mugisha. My encounters and my experience with him is that he embodies ethical leadership. And I thank you, Professor, for that message. And again, I've taken a lot of notes here, but of course, the emphasis on the fact that we as educators can enrich the lives of our students, of course, by being ethical. And of course, in fact, all the presenters emphasize the role of modeling ethical behavior. And of course, Dr. Vincent Ogutu, again, it is a pleasure. I love the fact that you were practical, you made it very simple, and you made it very easy for one to actually be ethical and practice the principles you have given. And of course, a lot of things have been learned. The emphasis that values are what is important. And of course, if it's important, it should be prioritized. The emphasis on that one's value also carries an emotional tie. And in fact, when you spoke about the cases of bribe and how one reacts, the expression should already tell you if that person is in already or out. But of course, you emphasize the fact that basically making that decision to say no, ultimately, is where the rubber meets the road. And so it is a pleasure. We've been enriched today by our presenters, and we thank you very much. I am quite excited, the fact that this presentation, one word that stood out from the three presenters, distinguished presenters, is the word moral courage, in that you need to stand for what is right. Yes, there are always costs, but standing for what is right is for the greater good, for the long run. And so I'm very grateful on behalf of my institution, Cavendish University, Uganda, to have you, Dr. Dinah, and of course, Dr. Vincent, and of course, our distinguished VC, Professor John Mugisha. Thank you so much for the wealth of knowledge that you've imparted today. And I believe we will continue to reflect on it, meditate on it, to make us better educators and inspire generations to come. Thank you very much for making the time. It is a privilege to have been a part of this, and we're very honored to have you. Thank you very much. Back to you, Madam Lydia.
Thank you so much, Prof. Olutayo, for those kind words. At this moment, I would like to bring our session to closure, and we will communicate the next steps, because this is not the end. This is a series of conversations and activities, and we'd like to actualize this so that when Dr. Ogutu visits, he will actually see it embodied in us in the different activities that we do. Thank you so much, team, and do have a great evening. Bye.
Thank you.